Hello, Mighty Warriors. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about what I learned in church this Sunday. It was a really um, great lesson, illuminating lesson. He talked about how the man is the thermostat and the wife is the thermometer, and how in marriage it is the man's job, that God has given the man the job to be the head, right? And because he's the head, it is his job to create the environment, sort of like a greenhouse. He used a greenhouse analogy. And in this greenhouse, you want to set the right temperature for what's growing in the garden to thrive. And so it's the husband's job to create and cultivate an environment where his wife can thrive, where his children can thrive, where everything's growing and multiplying and thriving, right? And he talked about how in the garden, Adam sat idly by while and watched while the enemy deceived his wife, right? And this is interesting because if you've ever watched a couple from afar, you can see that this still goes on today. While, a husband will stay silent and he watches maybe his wife kind of get out of control and do things in the family, to the children, and the household that kind of start to make things unravel or fall apart. But ultimately, what this lesson was about was that God holds the man responsible, because as the man goes, so goes the home, right? So if the man sets the tone. So if the man is chaotic, if the household, if the environment that he creates is chaotic, then the household will be chaotic. Just chiming in from my own experience, it is very difficult to overcome, as a woman, to overcome the tone that your husband has set, right? Because for a woman, it's exhausting. To try to overcome. You can't argue. You can't live like that all the time, like in just a full state of combativeness or trying to shift things in a certain direction. You can only kind of do what you can do. And so I find that lesson to be very, very true. That it is the man who is ultimately responsible for cultivating that environment. The wife, we only can respond to the temperature that is set. And if it's chilly, then it's chilly. If it's really hot, then it's really hot. And we just do our best to sort of survive, right? But it was a really great lesson, because it showed how the tone that was set by Adam created an environment where Eve was listening to voices that she shouldn't have been listening to. He wasn't really nurturing her in that way, right? And so she began to entertain these outside voices, and ultimately it created the destruction and the loss of their home. Can you see the picture now? Like, how many times have there been marriages that have not been working out? The husband maybe isn't talking to the wife, isn't communicating with her, and then the wife goes to outside people, outside the marriage, to get advice, comfort, whatever. And because they're listening to these voices that are a lot of times under the influence of the enemy, the marriage can very easily fall apart and then the home be destroyed, right? Completely and utterly destroyed. And the enemy still works like this to this day, right? So be careful, women, who you listen to, right? Be careful who you're taking advice from. Be careful, because you never know if those people are under the influence of the enemy, put there to try to destroy what maybe God has put together, or maybe what God can repair, right? So anyway, it was a really great lesson. I hope that you guys were blessed by that piece of information. Um, Women in this particular culture are saddled with a lot of responsibility, where in some cases they're expected to do everything, and there's really no suitable replacement for the father and the husband in the home, you know? And so we understand that already. Um, but yeah, as the man goes, so goes the home. Until next time, be baptized and be blessed.